There comes a time where someone will wonder, most people will wonder, how many people can I get in a game? To be more specific, this is going to be towards people who have consoles. For PC, you can say, oh, obviously this game and this game, you fucking idiot. But not everyone has the luxury of owning a PC to play any game they want, especially ones that has thousands of players playing at once. One thing that I like about Battle Royale, it's that they show that, hey, we can have 100 players at the same time on the same map, and maybe even more. Even before Battle Royale, my friends were surprised that Battlefield was going to have 64 players. It's so new we could have that many players on the map. One of the most surprising things is that there's a game that has done this for the PlayStation 3 and 360 era that had over 64 players, that even had over 100 players. That shows that we have the potential and technology to have a map full of players all together teaming up at once against each other. And that game was M.A.G for the PlayStation 3. The only problem is that the game was sandwiched in between two major releases, which were Modern Warfare 2 in 2009 and Black Ops later in November of 2010. Although the game really needed more or less of advertising, because this was 1 year before Battlefield 3 came out and was a major hit, and it pretty much was Battlefield before Battlefield 3 was released. Now that may be a bold claim, but there's a reason for it. After all, for Battlefield 3 and even so on to games this day, if you want to take an objective, you've got to have teamwork. You've got to have certain classes to help you get to where you need to go and to get your job done. For Battlefield, you had support, engineer, recon, and assault. As for all the weapons, they were divided between each certain class that forced you to play in that playstyle. If you like SMGs, you had to go and be an engineer. If you wanted to be an assault rifle user, you had to be an assault person, aka a medic. And as for M.A.G, it was no different. The names were just swapped up and you had 5 versions instead. From Field Support, Commando, Rapid Assault, Direct Action, and Sniper. Field Support was that you were either a mechanic or a medic. I played as a team medic. And there was Commando, meaning if you want to be stealthy and you CQC and get the objective done, or just kill people stealthily, that's what you do. If you wanted something simple, Jack of all trades, master of none, you were pretty much a Rapid Assault. You were protected, you could defend yourself, you could do objectives, but you didn't really have anything special on you. If you want to feel like an old action movie where the guy was shooting on the hip with an LMG, you would choose Direct Action. You're pretty much a walking tank with an LMG and a rocket launcher, taking out vehicles along the way with bonus resistance and health. As for the gameplay, surprisingly, it was pretty much a mix of Battlefield and Call of Duty. You had the gunplay of Call of Duty, but you had the team-based tactics of Battlefield. Trust me, you may have moments where you feel like you're an unstoppable killing machine just like any other game, but there's so many fucking players that you would die quite quickly. You won't hold out anytime soon. I will admit, I'm getting ahead of myself, so let's start at the beginning of what exactly is M.A.G, even though I kind of explained it earlier. As you know, I just explained it to you if you haven't played the game. It's pretty much gameplay of Call of Duty, but it had the teamwork of Battlefield and the objectives as well. But before you could even start your game, you had to pick a faction. Yes, you had to pick between 3 factions before you got to go out there and kill people, along with the tutorial too that was themed with the factions also. You pretty much had 3 to even 4 choices when deciding your faction. Do I like the guns that they have? Because they didn't all have the same guns. They had specific guns for their faction. Do I like the way the outfits look and the guns? And the whole entire background and music? Is the faction I'm doing crushing people? Are we doing well? Or should I try and make us somehow come back? And if you're someone who's more of a immersion player, if I'm in the US, I should pick a faction that is teamed in the US as well. Some examples being, if I want to look futuristic, I'll play as Raven. If I want to use an AK, I'll play as Sever. And if I'm immersive and I live in the US or in the South America region, I'll play as Valor. After you selected your character, you were able to select your head and your voice. Now you didn't have to worry because each faction can have all of the heads and voices that they want to customize with. With all of that out of the way, you were pushed into the tutorial. Now it's hard to find it nowadays because people at the time didn't like tutorials, and it's hard to find a game that's been shut down ever since 2014. Don't worry, I'll try and recall them, because the most memorable one out of the 3 was Sever. That meaning you were the last person to survive in your APC explosion and you gotta make it back to base, and that was the tutorial pretty much. As for Valor, it was your typical modern boot camp. You crawled through barbed wire, you shot some fucking targets, and that was it. As for Raven, it was pretty much Valor but more on a professional looking and futuristic looking level. After you got that all set and done, you're able to customize your character to your heart's content if you had the points, customize your weapons, and then play the game modes. But you most likely played the game mode first to unlock stuff, obviously. Now your first game mode was Suppression, pretty much Team Deathmatch. And for a console game, do you know how many players were on the Team Deathmatch version? 64. That's pretty much PC Team Deathmatch levels for Battlefield. For console, you had 24 players in Battlefield. The next game mode was Sabotage, still 64 players. This time, you had to defend or capture 2 points at the same time, and then for the final one, you gotta blow it up. Acquisition had 128 players. 2 platoons were attacking, 2 platoons were defending. The attackers had to basically steal escort vehicles and bring them back to base to win the game mode. The first and last DLC game mode was Interdiction, if that's how you pronounce it. And for that game mode, that was pretty much Call of Duty domination. This meaning you would hold 3 neutral objectives and try and fill up the bar until either you win or time runs out. And it still had 128 players. Now, M.A.G had their own version of domination, but this time it had 256 players. The objective from a attacker's perspective were to capture and hold 2 burnout towers, and then 2 more things will appear and you gotta capture them. But the thing being, you capture and hold almost all 4, you'll fill up a damage bar faster until you can fill that thing up to full completion. After you complete your match and you gained all your XP, that's where you get skill points and where to invest it in your skill tree. Well, the skills are all types. This means, do I want to unlock weapon attachments? Do I want to have some personal buffs to my character? Do I want to unlock equipment? Or do I want to get another tier of weapons to get? After spending your skill points for what weapon attachments, weapons, or equipment that you want, you can even customize your character. Your armor was not only just for cosmetic purposes, but also to protect you as well. There were 3 versions, light, medium, and heavy. You can probably guess what they do. Light meaning you can just run as fast as you want, recover kind of quickly, but you're going to take more damage. Heavy, you're basically a walking tank, but you can't run as fast or recover that much probably. Then there was the enhanced versions of these armors, meaning you have more protection and you stayed the same speed as that class. That meaning you had a light enhanced armor or light armor, you were the same speed regardless. And yes, they were DLC. The enhanced light armor and medium one were both free. The hard one came in a pack with the acquisition game mode. You were even able to select headgear, face gear / eyewear, and camouflage for your armor. Headgear unfortunately was restricted to the armor type that you were wearing at the time. Some examples being, if you want a beanie, a beret, or a hat, you had to be a light armor person. If you want a standard combat helmet, you had to be a medium armor variant. If you wanted a chopper helmet or a riot helmet, you had to be a heavy. Now don't worry, the enhanced version stayed in the respective same categories that they are improvement of. You might think that the enhanced versions, from what you're hearing, are pay to win, but they're not, because there's a category that your armor falls in with, and that falls in with your loadout and your loadout points as well. In the game, they're known as CCs. I'm guessing it's command credits, and you get 34 of them. Now, depending on the armor that you have, it will also affect how much equipment you can carry and what version of a gun you're gonna have. Example, if you want to run around and carry light stuff, that means you can carry a bunch of equipment, you can have a high tier weapon, and you can even have a high tier pistol as well. While wearing the heaviest armor, you might just have your primary, your secondary, and 1 gadget. Sure, you have short stuff, but at least you won't get one-tapped by the highest damage sniper that the enemy team has. Not only did you have loadout points that you had to manage, you also had to manage how much you could carry on you as well. The most self-explanatory stuff is how much your gear weighs and your armor. As for your pistol, that was free, but to have a machine pistol, SMG, or shotgun, that would weigh a lot more. Having a higher tier weapon for your primary would weigh slightly more. I know I sure brought this in the beginning, but I'm holding it towards the end for the story because just like the story of this game, it holds it in the back. It's not there for you to know all the time. Somehow, all the governments around the world said, you know what? War is pretty much fucking gay. It's the big gay. Dab on it real quick and world peace is achieved. But there is a shadow war going on. No, the governments are not fighting each other. It's the rival PMCs. They're fighting for the competition. They want to get all the money. They want to basically survive in this market. The reason why I say shadow war is because Raven, Valor, and Sever are just fighting each other. They're fighting over the oil and land that the governments don't own, and they're trying to get the most contracts and steal each other's secrets. While everyone on the surface level just sees them as giving aid to people and providing protection services. So pretty much what's probably happening right now as we speak in the real world. Now, M.A.G was given a very good reception. It got solid 7s, 8s, and 4 out of 5 stars. The The game was even patched regularly for the first year out of the 4 years that it was released, and we'll get into that in a bit. But they did some map changes, they did some bug fixes, some fucking reworks and balancing for the guns and so on and so forth. Unfortunately, the people that were making the game, Zipper, they had to close their doors in 2012, and the servers stayed up for another 2 years. Zipper Interactive was probably most likely known for its SOCOM US Navy SEALs series back in the PlayStation 2 days. And for the PlayStation 3, all they released was M.A.G and SOCOM 4 US Navy SEALs. What's even worse is that back then in 2012, they were working on 2 new games for the PlayStation 4, this being another game for the SOCOM series for the PlayStation 4 and an unnamed first-person shooter that no one will ever know of now. I will say that Zipper Interactive did make a very good fucking game, and they proved that even for the PS3 you could have over 100 players and the game would run fucking smooth. Who knows if they would ever make M.A.G rebooted and free to play in 2019 or bring it to the next generation of consoles. If you're playing on a PlayStation 4 or Xbox One and you thought you'd never experience M.A.G, well, don't worry. There's at least one game that I know of that has even more than 256 players in that game. The game is free to play, and it's called PlanetSide 2. You can have 6,000 players per server and 2,000 players per continent. This meaning you could have a 8 versus 8 capture and hold the objective to a fucking 126 player Zerg rush against a small base. There are a few similarities though, this being a heavy character, engineer, medic, and sniper, and assault class, to having customization for your character. And that's pretty much it for the similarities, because PlanetSide 2 actually does some improvements from M.A.G. First and obvious one being the player count. Having 2,000 players per continent is fucking crazy. You can still customize your character, but you don't have to worry about weight. And you can even customize your weapons more and your vehicles as well. Sure, it may suck at the end of the day that M.A.G will never see the light of day or get remade and re-improved for the current generation of consoles or for the future ones. But M.A.G was the first one to show on consoles that we are capable of having over 100 players and even 150 players and even 200 players playing the same map at the same time. Although M.A.G is no more, PlanetSide 2 is there to fill in the gap for us. And to be honest, I'm perfectly fine with that.
Swallow pills like cherry pops. Lose my way.